Here.
Sterner,
Here.
Vento,
Here.
Wolf,
Here.
Zarin,
Present.
thank you, and Lindstrom.
Hello, hello.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any changes to today's agenda? Or any additions? Without objection, then we will move forward with our agenda, which looks like it's going to be a good one. First item is the approval of the minutes from August 11th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Vento moves approval.
I'll move second, sir.
We'll get you one of them. We'll get you on the second. Thank you very much.
So Vento motioned, and who was the second?
Fredson.
Fredson. Thank you very much.
And roll call.
Thank you. Fredson.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zarin.
Aye.
And Lindstrom.
Aye. Moving right along, that takes us to our consent agenda, where we have two comp plans and comprehensive sewer plans from South St. Paul and City of Spring Park. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Preston, I would move approval.
So you're not,
Second.
do I need to tell you everything?
And I heard second.
Because they're already down to
Councilmember
doing consent
Wolfpack.
agenda.
Jason, is that Jason that needs to mute himself?
Yes, it is. Jason, if you could please mute
There we
yourself.
go.
Thank you.
Very good.
So I heard a motion from Fredson, second from Wolf.
Correct.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Fredson.
Aye.
Sterner.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Zarin.
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Thank you.
And we are moving right along onto our one and only business item, where we're talking about Vector Services. We're going to be hearing from Mr. Ward.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Joe Ward. I'm in the process engineering group and support services business unit, and I'm here to talk to you about Vector Services. And Sarah Smith is also here with me to help answer any questions, but I don't think her name ended up on the slide there. So I wanted to, next slide. All right, so I just want to start off with what Vector Services are used for. And on the right, you can see a picture of a typical Vector truck, and it's, you can imagine your household vacuum. It's a giant truck-mounted vacuum with a lot of power. And it's used for removing built-up material from tanks and piping and areas where things shouldn't be building up. The material will eventually cause blockages and shut down a process. Next slide, please. And here's an example of what we use them for. In 2019 at the SMB building, we had a polymer disruption where some of the polymers got mixed up in the bulk storage tanks on the right-hand side. You can see the beige tanks there. The goo from the left-hand side ended up in those storage tanks, and it should not be there. We use the Vector trucks. You can sort of see the tubing on the right there, the hoses, to suck that material out of there. The Vector truck was parked up and outside. This is in the lower level in the basement. And so the Vector was used to suck this material out and return our process back to service. Next slide, please. As far as the contract goes, our current contract is not to exceed $880,000, and it was split into. I think we go over two slides here. I think is there one back? Sorry. Yes, there we go. Okay. So in May of 2018, we solicited bids for all the plants, and it was split into two contracts. We bid them individually, and excuse me, I'm getting a little lost in the weeds, but just to get the best price for each plant. And so we ended up with Metro, Seneca, Eagles Point, Hastings, St. Croix Valley, and Empire being served by Schlumke Services, and the 18127B contract for Blue Lake and East Bethel being served by Goliath. In August of 2019, we amended the contract because of last year's high wet weather flows, ended up with a lot of material in places it shouldn't be. And then also the critical response to the polymer system that you can sort of see some photos of there. That we're certainly not in the normal budget, normal spending range of where we see things sort of plug up and have to be removed. So we amended the contract in 2019. Next slide, please. So the current contract is not to exceed $880,000. The A contract with the bulk of the plants has 646,000 of the 880, and the B contract has 233 or the remainder. On the A contract, there's about $240,000 remaining, and 34,000 on the B contract with East Bethel and Blue Lake. The 18P127B, actually both of them are set to expire on June 30th of next year. And with only 34,000 remaining on the 18P127B contract, that's not enough funding to get to June 30th. They typically spend about $8,000 a month at Blue Lake. And most of that is related to scum removal building up in the clarifiers. And what has happened is we have come up with a new process for removing scum there since the contract was originally bid. It requires more Vactor hours to complete. However, it's a more reliable process that frees up the operators. And it relies more on the Vactor truck than our pumping equipment. And we are in the process of preparing a new RFP to go out for bids for all the plants again. That includes this new process. And Blue Lake has accounted for the spending in their budget. However, the funding on the particular contract is running low. And so we are here to request an additional $100,000 to cover the remaining months to get us through to June 30th of next year. And next slide, please. And our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes a sole source amendment to Vactor Service Contract number 18P127B with Goliath Hydrovac for an additional amount of $100,000, increasing the total contract amount to $980,000. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Ward? I remember when that polymer disruption happened a year or so ago. Man, I had not seen a photograph of it though, and it looks pretty nasty. I see Councilmember Zieren's got a question or comment.
I do. It seems we're revisiting this quite often. Can you run me through the logic of why we don't own our own truck and hire a person to operate that truck since we're using these services on a regular basis? Mr. Chair.
Yes,
go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair. Oh, sorry. Mr.
No,
Chair.
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, committee members, that's a little before my time, but I believe the answer to that is that we do have our own trucks that are used by interceptor services. However, we run into scheduling conflicts. As an example, if interceptor services is vectoring out manholes, up in East Bethel, and all of a sudden, Blue Lake has sort of a blockage down there, and they need the guys from East Bethel to pack up and drop everything and hustle down there. I believe my understanding is that that's, I guess, sort of what the issue is just a scheduling manpower I don't know if anyone, Sarah or anyone else has anything to add to that, but that's my understanding of the background of, I believe it has been looked at in the past.
Chair and council members, this is Sarah Smith. Yes, I believe that Joe Ward's response to that question is accurate, that it's a timing, being able to be timely and efficient and more cost effective for us to be able to use these services as opposed to do them ourselves.
Thank you. Any follow-up, council members, Aaron? And then
Yeah, I just
Lisa may have a point to make as well.
Okay. I just wanted to thank them for their answer, and that's it. Thank you.
We will get you some more specifics as to why we've split this, but we do have some Vector trucks that we use within the interceptor system. We do not use them often enough, has been our past record with the plants. So to invest in the cost of an additional Vector for the plants is something we have to just keep looking at. Are we doing enough of this to justify versus the contracting or not? The complexity of scheduling interceptor to do the plant work didn't seem to make sense at the time, given what we were paying for contracting for the amount that we had. But as that volume is growing or the situation's different, we have to keep looking at that. So we can get you a little more detail in terms of why it is or isn't a decision of in-house versus continuing to contract. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more idea that we do look at this question of, is it best for us to do it in-house or is this to be contracted? Because there's price points and breaks, and sometimes it's better to do in-house and sometimes external. Thank you.
Great questions. All right. Any other questions? So, Mr. Ward, you're looking for a motion to move forward on this contract. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Wolf moves the staff recommendation.
In a second?
Fredson, second.
Fantastic. Roll call, please.
Fredson,
Aye.
Sterner,
Aye.
Bento,
Aye.
Wolf,
Aye.
Zarin,
Aye.
Lindstrom.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Appreciate it. Excellent presentation. And that takes us to our information item where we have a report on MOSAC and their activities, and ably led by Councilmember Wolf and our staff team. So I don't know if we have a presentation or a PowerPoint to pull up, or if it's just going to be Mr. El Hassan and Ms. Ross, or tag team of both.
Mr. Chair, committee members, we will just talk about it. Thanks for the opportunity again, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Ali Al Hassan. I'm the manager of water supply planning. With me today is Lania Ross, who is an environmental analyst with the water supply planning unit. And we'll give you a summary of the recent meeting of the MOSAC, the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committee, which was the joint meeting with the MOSAC and the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee for the MOSAC. And I will just wanted to give a little bit reminder or an introduction to some of the committee members of who is MOSAC. MOSAC is the Metro Area Water Supply Advisory Committee. Short for it is MOSAC. In 2005, when the legislature mandated that the Met Council take into regional planning activities for water supply planning, created also this committee as an advisory committee to the Met Council. The committee itself represents counties in the metro area, it represents municipalities, and it represents state agencies. And it has to be led and that's the statute, what the statute is saying, it has to be led by council, the Met Council chair, or a representative from the Met Council. And now that leader of that committee is Council Member Wolf. The lead staff for MOSAC from the Met Council is Lisa Thompson. And in 2015, the legislature tried to add additional depth, technical depth to the MOSAC, and give them the opportunity to appoint technical advisory committee members that can support, because water supply issues are vast, it has a lot of broad issues that could be addressed from different points of views. And the legislature wanted to make sure that MOSAC will have the sufficient technical depth that could help them making right policy recommendations to the council and to the region. And so in 2015, the legislation has been changed and introduced the Technical Advisory Committee, TAC. Between the two committees, we have 33 members. So we have 33 members from around the metro area advising us advising the activities of the Met Council on water supply. One very important activity or very important job for MOSAC is to approve the master water supply plan. When we develop the master water supply plan, which is every 10 years and updated in between, MOSAC has the approval of authority before it comes to the council for adoption by the Met Council and the other agencies. We used to have MOSAC meetings more frequent. It used to be quarterly, and sometimes, especially when we are developing the master water supply plan or the systems plan, the water resources policy plan, MOSAC meets more frequently so that they can provide their point of view on the issues that's raised in these plans that the Met Council is developing. And but recently, because of COVID-19 and all of the issues that we have, we didn't have a lot of meetings. The most recent meeting was in August 25th, and that's when we had the joint meeting between the two committees. And with that, I think we'll have 3 points that we'll talk about in the agenda for MOSAC and TAC on that day. And I will let Lani address the first 2, and then I will address the last one.
Thanks, Ollie. Can everybody still hear me okay?
We can.
Excellent. Yeah, it was our first online meeting of both of those committees, and it was good to see everybody again. We kept it fairly simple, the meeting agenda. We wanted to share with the committees Metropolitan Council's report to the Minnesota Legislature about water supply planning activities, which is a report that was due on September 15th as part of the EQB's state water plan. And so at a past Environment Committee meeting, you may recall that we shared an update about that report. So we got the same kind of input from MOSAC and TAC that we asked for from you, and that was used and incorporated as we finalized that report. So they helped shape our messaging there. We were really particularly interested in hearing from them about their perspectives on how water supply planning has changed because of Met Council and our partners' activities since 2005, because they've been really influential in guiding the council on what we're doing related to water supply planning. And then we also wanted to get their perspective on what messages to highlight. Similar to what Environment Committee members shared, they stressed the importance of showcasing our collaboration and on the technical work that crosses boundaries, because groundwater, for example, certainly doesn't follow city boundaries. So having an entity like the Met Council able to support projects for multiple communities adds value to their work. In case you hadn't heard, that report was submitted to the legislature on the 15th. So if you Google EQB State Water Plan, you can see the full water plan including our Met Council report. The full report is also on the council's document library. And so I hope that going forward, that report continues to be a good reference to you if you have any questions about the scope of the council's work relating to water supply planning. There's a lot of good information about the projects that we've done, for example, that we have access to if you have any water supply related topics or questions. Another topic we raised at the MOSAC and TAC joint meeting was an update on those committees' work planning. So this has been really guided by Councilmember Wolf, the TAC chair, Mark Maloney, who's with the city of Shoreview. We have been, over the past years, talking about a wide range of water supply issues in the region. And it's a very complex topic. And because the council is not a utility, we're not a regulator, we operate in that planning realm related to water supply planning. We want to work in a way that adds value. So a lot of topics have been raised, but it's now time to really focus on what are our priorities and getting input from our advisory committees on where can we add the most value, or what should we be looking at in terms of policy recommendations. So we have been reaching out in one-on-one or small group interviews with various MOSAC members. And then now we've just started having those conversations with some of our TAC members to kind of do a deeper dive into what they see as priorities and also where they see the council or the committees really adding value. So that will be used to shape the work plan for those committees going forward. And so we'll be bringing some updates on that work to you at your future meetings. Related to that is how do we support all this work we're doing? And so the third topic that we raised at this meeting was the council's Clean Water Fund request, because that's one of our primary sources of funding, particularly for the technical work that we're doing, which is scoped by our local and state partners. And so Ali, I'll turn that back to you to talk more about that Clean Water Fund request.
And as Lani mentioned, the Clean Water Fund is a major source of funding for the water supply planning. We are the only unit in environmental services that receive Clean Water Fund or from the state. And the Clean Water Fund support the work of Met Council that's guided water supply work that's guided by MOSAC and TAC. So if we lose that funding, MOSAC and TAC, then we're not going to have any projects that the projects that MOSAC and TAC advised us to do or carry out in the region, we will not be able to do that. And every 2 years, we submit our request for the Clean Water Fund. And as all of you know that the state is facing a shortage this year in the revenue from the taxes. And with that in mind, anticipating that this shortage is not going to go anywhere in the next year, especially for the next biennium, agencies have been coordinating effort to come up with a request that meet all the requirements of the Clean Water Fund, but at the same time maintain the programs that has been established since the establishment of the Clean Water Fund 10 years ago. And the MOSAC and TAC have been involved in the previous years, and every time we are submitting a request for funding, they have been supporting Met Council request for funding from the Clean Water Fund. This year, for the next biennium, Met Council is requesting $2.3 million for 2 programs, to support 2 programs, including a grant program for water efficiency, and also for a sustainability program to support communities' effort to maintain and reach sustainability goals determined in the master water supply plans. And we are requesting, again, support from all those communities represented in MOSAC and TAC, and also the communities that they work with for our request, because all of this funding is actually going to the communities. When we did a calculation, about 65% of our sustainability program is funding going to communities, And 100% of our grant program is going to the communities to support their efforts. So a lot of the money that we are receiving is actually benefiting the region into different areas, into the different communities around the region. And the results of this request, we went to the MOSAC and TAC in that meeting, and we asked them to support our request. And it was a very positive response from the communities. The Clean Water Council yesterday mentioned that they received about 15 or 16 letters from communities in the metro area. In addition to one county, Dakota County sent a support letter for the Met Council request, and also Metro Cities, which is the representing most of the cities in the metro area, has also sent a support letter for the two programs and for our request for the two programs. And we would like to build on this relationship that we have with the MOSAC members and the communities in supporting getting funding for some of these projects that really help the communities achieve their sustainability goals and implement their local planning goals for resiliency and water safety, and helping them with that. With that, we will open it for questions, Mr. Chair and council members.
Thank you very much. Any initial questions? And I think I see everybody's face, those of you that are sharing video. But if I can't see your face, just feel free to pipe up. Any questions? So are you both pretty optimistic that this round of funding will go through, the clean water request?
Mr. Chair, we hope so. The agencies are coordinating among themselves in a very good way with the Clean Water Council in coming up with a request that could meet the amount of money that could be available for Clean Water Fund, from Clean Water Fund. As you know, Mr. Chair, this is an iterative process. There will be another projection for how much money is going to be available in end of November, which is going to be crucial in determining how much money really we are having a target now, but that target might be again changing in November and in March of next year also.
So the council's received 15 or so support letters plus a letter from Metro Cities. Did they happen to mention how many applications they have in? Like I imagine they've got a request. We've got our request in for 2.3 million, unless I'm not understanding correctly. But what's the competition look like?
The Clean Water Council this is for the biennium for the next 2 years. The next 2 fiscal years, we are requesting 2.3 million out of 220 million. And agencies differs in size of request for that, and including all the environmental agencies, Bowser, Board of Soil and Water, PCA, Department of Natural Resources, Department of Health, and the University of Minnesota, and other entities outside the state agencies also can submit some of these requests for funding for projects that they came up with. So the total as of now is 220, and that's the target that we received from the Minnesota Management and Budget Office. That's kind of the initial target for now, but that's again could be changed if the tax revenue is up or down as projected and at the end of November.
Good. Other questions, comments? I'm curious to know, last comment from me, I think. You were saying, Ms. Ross, about how you were talking to MOSAC about how water supply planning has changed since 2005. And I'm just curious to know what were some of their comments? What was it like before 2005? I imagine there was much less coordination.
There was much less coordination. And this is a topic near and dear to my heart because I started with the council in 2006, immediately after we were sort of authorized to do this work. So it's been interesting to be part of the change. The level of collaboration has really grown, I think most notably. And the level of, I won't say it's like region-wide trust, but really like the level of trust that's been created between the council's water supply planning program and the state agencies, but also more importantly, local communities, water utilities is really important because there was a lot of uncertainty when this program began, what the council's role would be. There was a lot of fear that the council would take over water supply, local water supply systems, and create a regional system similar to, way back in the day. And the wastewater commission was created. We took over this we built a regional wastewater system. But the drivers are the water supply systems and the wastewater systems are very different. And the drivers for how we manage them are very different. And so over time, really kind of laying out that the council is in a role to provide technical assistance, to convene and bring communities together on shared water supply issues and provide that support has been, I think, the most striking shift. If you look in the report, I'll send a link out after this too if you haven't yet seen it. I was really struck by the number of comments from outside partners supporting the work that we're doing. And that's something that just would not have happened in 2005. And so if you want to see different local perspectives on how we're bringing value to water supply planning, I think that the quotes included in that report are a nice sort of high impact short way to get a sense of that.
Yeah, we'd love to check that out.
I will be sure to share that.
Super.
And Mr. Chair, if I may say one thing.
Please.
We continue working in a very close collaboration with MOSAC and TAC. Actually, we are in the process, and both Lani and Emily Steinweg, who is also in this call, both of them are interviewing the technical advisory committee members nowadays. Within the next 2 weeks, they're going to finish that, hopefully. And they're getting their perspective. They are, most of them are practitioners, public work directors, and city engineers who are reflecting on some of the issues that raised by MOSAC and giving more of a practical issues that at the city level they are dealing with it, which is giving us a really good technical background that can support any policy recommendation that MOSAC will put into the future, and also would come to you also. I think we have really a very good forum of representation here that address a lot of the water issues that most of us we can benefit from having this model to use such expertise and depth in knowledge to help us achieve sustainable water for our region.
Well, you've got a lot of expertise on that, on TAC, no question about that. I've seen the list of members, and I've had the pleasure of meeting and talking with the chair or the co-chair, the Public Works Director from Shoreview several times, and there's really no one better that knows this issue more than he does, and I'm sure there's great expertise around the table. Councilmember Wolf, any additional comments from the chair of MOSAC?
Yes, Mr. Chair. When you asked about how things have changed between 2005 and now, in 2005, I was a Lakeville City Council member. And I remember all of the concern from cities. I was very involved in policy matters back then too. And there was a ton of concern from cities that it was just a power trip that the Met Council was going to take over the water supply. But we have learned so much more about our water supply in the last 15 years in terms of mapping out the aquifers and really understanding where our water comes from, what the dangers are, what we need to do to keep our water clean and safe, potential contaminants, things that people weren't really thinking about much are now just taken for granted, that we know all this about our water supply that we didn't used to know. And that's all because of the work that the Met Council has been doing.
Sounds like there's been a lot of trust that's needed to be built from those early years where people were had a lot of trepidations about the big bad Met Council coming in and taking over their world.
Well, the water permitting process is very, very complicated and has a lot of different agencies that work on it. And so people were afraid that it would get even more complicated, and council's been working to try to make things work smoother rather than be another layer of bureaucracy.
Yeah, I've learned that when it comes to complicated things, water is right on the top when you're dealing with Bowser and DNR and NPCA and soil and water conservation districts and et cetera.
Department of Health.
I'm sure I'm missing some right there. They're like, oh my God, where do I go? Like everybody is involved in this. So that's challenging. Well, good. Other questions, comments? This has been very helpful. Appreciate it. Thanks to you both for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. That takes us to our general manager's report.
Well, I think a meeting or so ago, I mentioned that we were waiting to hear about our Platinum Awards, which we get excited about every year. But because of the pandemic, I should say, we were a little off schedule, but we did get notification. So I thought I'd give you a quick update on where we stand with those awards this year. Just a refresher, the Peak Performance Awards recognize excellence in wastewater treatment as measured by compliance with our NPDES permits. It's a national recognition program, and it basically recognizes our ES staff for putting forth hard work and commitment on behalf of the environment in our communities every day of the year, despite the weather and whatever difficulties might be coming along. They make sure that we get the job done. The highest award they give is called a Platinum Performance, and 5 of our facilities are getting, or that's for facilities that have 5 or more years of continuous compliance to earn this honor, and 6 of our facilities are again getting awarded Platinum Awards for, this is performance through the end of 2019, so we're always off by about 6 months because they go on a calendar year. Thought I'd give you a quick breakdown of the facilities, not only ours, but a little bit of idea on how many other facilities are in that peer group. So sum total across the country, there was 152 facilities that received Platinum Awards. 6 of those, as I mentioned, are ES facilities. The 5 to 10 years range, the Metro plant is right in the middle with 8 years. And in that 5-year span, there's 63 facilities total getting a Platinum Award. You'll notice as it gets up over 10 years, it starts to, facilities start to find it harder to maintain that compliance. So the next window of time is a 15-year span from 11 years to 26 years. Our Empire facility has a 12-year compliance record. And Eagles Point and Blue Lake both have 14-year compliance records. And for that 15-year span of time, there's only 83 facilities that are in that level of performance. And now we're up at the top. For the top 4 years of compliance, it goes from 28 years to a highest record of 31 years. And there's a total of 6 facilities. And we're down 1 facility from last year. And the year before that, we lost a facility. So what we have is 2 of our facilities are in that top 6. St. Croix Valley has a 28-year record, and Hastings has a 29-year record. And there's one other facility at the 29-year record, that's Ocean County, New Jersey. And last year, Dallas, Texas was in that category, but they fell off that list in 2019. And then there's 2 facilities with higher records. We have Ames, Iowa with 30 years and Hanover, New Jersey with 31 years. So we keep a close eye on those top numbers, always hoping that we'll keep pushing towards the top, but it gets a little anxious as we see some of these other really good facilities fall off in recent years. Then we also have another award category called the Gold Award, and that's for a year of perfect compliance. And our 3 other facilities all earned Gold Awards for 2019. So that would be East Bethel, that's their first year in that category, and Rogers, our newest facility, and Seneca for the 3rd year in a row is getting the gold level. So they're over the halfway mark to the Platinum Award. So collectively, when you add all of the 2019 compliance together, you get 108 years. If you just look at the platinum level plants, you have 105 years of continuous compliance. Pretty exciting. This is, what it's all about. Are we making sure that all that wastewater that we take in has reached the levels of standards that say it's safe for the environment and safe for the public? And our staff are very, very committed to that, and I'm proud of the work they do.
As are we, no question about that. 108 years of continuous compliance, not too shabby. And I know that we have a virtual employee recognition event coming up at some point in the maybe a month or 2 ahead, and I'm sure you will make that point many times over, as you always do. Great job of recognizing where credit is due, which is to our many, many staff members. Fantastic. Congratulations. Very good. I think that takes us to the end of our agenda. So we are adjourned. Have a great day, everybody. See you next time.